So how is the data monetization landscape? How is that changing and kind of impacting? You talked about, I know you came from financial services and you deal with a lot of financial services. And so could you go into how the landscape is changing, but also in different industries, how that's impacting and changing as well in different industries?
Sure. It's changed dramatically since I started in this industry over 12 years ago. And I think the best way to contextualize the change is to think about it within the context of the hype cycle. I know a lot of us are familiar with it. We've seen it before. It's used, quite frequently by a lot of industry players. And I think it's relevant to the alternative data and monetization ecosystem because there was a major trigger in the early days where compute became much cheaper, companies became much more technology focused and as a consequence, data focused. And it triggered innovation where data could be used to inform business decisions and investment decisions more specifically. And what we saw and what we continue to see is a lot of new entrants coming in. And because of that, it's getting a lot of press. The Journal is writing about it and other media platforms are. And so there's a lot of inflated expectations for what the returns could be from utilizing the data. And I think now we're at an interesting reflection point where we're seeing some effects of a lot of different players in the market with very different levels of data quality, I should say. And a lot of the end users are having trouble keeping up with that and discerning what data sets are valuable and which are not. Add to that the fact that there's a little regulatory or business framework for how data should be shared. And so unfortunately, that creates a lot of nervousness for players that want to get exposure to this market and unlock the commercial opportunity. But because of the lack of consistency in how the data workflows operate, they're tending to be a little bit more conservative. And that causes investor frustration as well, because the buying process is harder. It's harder to uncover value. And so what we're trying to do as a part of the solution, if you will, is institute a best practice from the privacy standpoint and work with our clients to ensure that they're bringing the most valuable pieces of their data to market so that their end users aren't left wondering if it was worth it to access that data. So.
Gotcha. So it sounds like LeapYear is bringing some kind of standard to the industry in terms of how modernization is being approached. So can you talk about like some of the key players in the ecosystem and
Sure.
and how, I guess the business, how people are going to start approaching the business a little bit differently?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are quite a variety of players in the industry. To try and ground it a little bit, you can think about it as the participants falling into three categories. There tends to be the data originators, in some cases, who are providing their data themselves. You then have the aggregators who are sourcing data sets, turning them into derived products, and then selling those derived products to the investment community. And then there are the marketplaces, where they don't actually create new data sets or sell the data per se. They act as the distribution mechanism for those data sets and try to become a centralized resource or library, if you will, for all the different data sets that are available from all the different players. And so they each bring their value to the table. I think our goal at LeapYear is to try and work with all parties. And what I mean by that is help the data originators, the Fortune 500 that are supplying these data sets, help them institute best practices for data sharing by leveraging our software instead of heuristics to ensure privacy. We can work with the aggregators who want to produce really valuable insights to use LeapYear to do so in cases where they're sourcing from a third party. And then with the marketplaces, it's a very similar vein where there are the potential for new products being created using LeapYear software is very large, because a lot of the data that's most valuable to the end users is being removed for the sake of privacy, if you will. So,
excellent. Well, listen, Dawson, do you have anything at the end of this conversation? Do you have anything else to tell us that we didn't cover, that you would like to say to our CDO community?
Sure. So I would say to any CDOs watching the discussion, as you think about this question about whether or not you want to participate in the monetization ecosystem or the alternative data ecosystem, as some people call it, I'm sure you're all going through a lot of questions. Is my data too sensitive? Is it unique? Is it going to be actually of value downstream to the investment community? The most important question, of course, is how much is it worth? And then also, how do I get started? How do I unlock this? Not to do a shameless plug, but we have put some resources on our website that are free to access, where any CDO who's thinking about this can go and look through the answers to those questions from our perspective, at least. And to ensure that when you work with a party, be it LeapYear or someone else, to help you unlock this vertical, that you take care that they help you along with all of those questions, because you shouldn't do this alone. It is I wouldn't say a complicated market, but it is a very specific market in terms of what you need to do, what the data needs to be, what the data needs to contain, and how you should go to market. So leverage your partners to unlock the value there. That's what I'll leave with.
All right. Well, listen, I want to say thank you, Dawson. Listen, everybody, you just heard from Dawson Smith, Senior Director of Modernization at LeapYear Technology. I want to say again, thank you for joining us today. And I'll just say, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.